Hey everyone. So, today we're starting a new Higurashi chapter. It's finally time for chapter 7. It's finally time for Higurashi Minagoroshi. Now, I wasn't told of the exact chapter count for this chapter, but it should be relatively not too long. If anything, the longest part of the chapter apparently is the finale, which is, or the final chapter, or the final subchapter, which is about 4.5 hours long, or 4 hours long on the dot. It was one of those two. And oh boy, that's gonna be something. Anyway, we did the post-chapter discussion yesterday. Again, sorry for those who watched it live. It was unfortunately very scuffed. It was such a fucking pain in the ass, dude. Seeing it be, like, or just having all the problems that I had, like, live. So I hope that doesn't continue today. We'll find out. Here's hoping that just, like, stream remains relatively stable for the most part. Anyway, let me just quickly config the game from my end. Just make sure the audio is fine. And if the audio is good, then we can go ahead and get started. Yeah, that should be good. Alright. Let's swap it over to the game real quick. And then we're going to be reading for quite a little while. Again, the intro chapter was supposed to be around 45 minutes long, and then, like, well, I say intro, right? But, like, the first chapter that you play, the first sub-chapter, is about 45 minutes long, and the one after is, like, 1 hour and 20. So, you know, it's going to be at least 2 hours, which shouldn't be too bad. We should be able to get this, done easily today. Do remember as well, I am going to be streaming more around this time during, the week as well. So, you know, 11:30 Central AM is when I'm going to be trying to stream the rest of Higurashi. So we're going to be doing this again on Wednesday and Thursday. And it should go smoothly, I hope. We'll see. If it does, then that's great. We'll be able to get at least maybe 2 chapters at a time, since I'm going to be streaming before I go to bed. That means that we can kind of just go for as long as I want, so I don't need to be worried about, like, ah, shit, we have to end, like, in 10 minutes. Because I gotta go to work, like I used to do. So we'll give that a shot for a while, and we'll see if maybe that's a little bit better. I know the weekdays is not necessarily the best time to stream for some of you, especially in the middle of the week, like on a Wednesday, on a Thursday. So I understand if some of you happen to miss them, but I hope that it doesn't come to that. Anyway, do remember, as always, intro movies are on. So eventually, at some point, we're gonna have an intro play out. Make sure to cover your eyes if you don't want spoilers. If you've already seen Higurashi, or if you've already read this chapter, you should be fine. But for those of you that haven't, make sure you look away. I literally have to cover my eyes and hope for the best. And hope that I don't understand anything in the song that might be related to whatever's going on as well. Anyway, let's get started. Oh boy. Minagoroshi, The Final Truth, Massacre Chapter. The story introduces the unit inside and out, using all the actors. This is no longer a story. It's a public autopsy for all to join. As they say, after loving someone, cut open their belly and eat their organs. It's the same with stories. The difficulty is quite mild, well suited for those with pride. Oh, and it's Pride Month too! Incredible. Anyway. Well suited for the gays. Let's get started. Oh no, is it the intro? Is this the intro movie? I don't know. Oh, goddamn. I was worried for a second. Let me double check one quick thing. I'm pretty sure it is set to, yes, original backgrounds, this is on, and then CGs are on. Okay. Are we in the space and time between dimensions or between worlds? God, can you imagine that's what this is? Alright, just double checking the audio. It should be good for you guys as well. I'm gonna crank it up a little bit more, and I'm gonna lower it on my end for myself. But this should be pretty good. Alright. What are you doing? I don't see you playing by yourself that often. All you could do before was nod to my questions. Since when do you have your own will? I'm glad. I finally have a sister or a brother. Whichever you are. I used to be an existence of nothingness, just like you. But one day I began to have my own identity, my own thoughts, and eventually my own body. So, it's not a surprise to see you in possession of your own will. Welcome to this vast, yet tiny world, my sister. You might be my brother, but let me call you my sister until I know for sure. This is an endless, eternal, and infinite world, but that doesn't mean it's boundlessly vast. I suppose you could describe it like a ring with a small diameter. While the ring is an eternal, endlessly looping world, that doesn't mean it contains infinite space. Yeah, in short, this world is eternally sealed. The future is supposed to be an infinite weave of countless choices. Yet, for whatever reason, our world always ends in death. If I were to compare it to something, perhaps a maze of fate would be appropriate. Looping through the same moments forever steadily grows harder and more dejecting, eventually producing something like me. Okay. So, before we continue, I have not had anything of this chapter spoiled for me. But the only thing I have had spoiled for me is that there's like this pink-haired girl and like a teal-haired girl or something. But that's because the icons for this game spoil it. The banners for these games spoil, like, who the fuck is involved. So I have no idea if maybe that's the creature that's speaking to us right now. The fucking teal-haired lolly girl or the fucking purple-haired anime girl. I don't know if it's any of them. Or this could be Rika talking to herself. It could be someone talking to Rika. Who knows? But anyway. Then, as that draws further on, even one like you is born, and eventually this world may be filled with your sisters too. After that, we'll build a colony inside of it, and once we lose our interest in this maze, Rika Furude will disappear from this world. So it is Rika. So it is someone speaking to Rika. It looks like you still cling to this narrow world, Rika, though I lost interest long ago. Which is why I am truly glad you were born for me to talk to. So, what are you doing? Are you collecting fragments of memory? Are they using the PS2? Yeah, they are. They're showing a bunch of the PS2 CGs. No, that's a bunch of just like the scenes. It's kind of crazy that we're getting this technology from a visual novel game. It does look very pretty though. I was not expecting it. Oh, and there's someone holding a machete, I think. Anyway. There's only 5 or 6 of them right now. It must still be fun for you, though. There used to be more fragments long ago. But one by one, they disappeared into the darkness. Now, these are the only ones that remain clear. Oh, that's not how you're supposed to use it. See? Try and hold it up to the light. All of that is the life of Rika Furude, and its end. This one is... Oh, I remember that one. That's the world when Keiichi was cursed. Those fragments are like books to me, so I titled that one Orikakshi. Oh my fucking god. And now it's a cube. Yeah, now it's a cube. Do you remember what happened in that one? Good. That makes things easier. In Onikakshi, are we getting a recap of the entire fucking franchise for the next 45 minutes? If so, I'm gonna skip all of it and just hold the control down real quick. In Onikakshi, Keiichi Maebara was consumed by the darkness. He couldn't accept the kind words of his friends He couldn't accept the kind words his friends offered him and eventually beat them to death, not knowing of their kindness. Is this, Yeah, why was it using the console sprites by default? Anyway. We were all killed after that anyway. That had nothing to do with the story, though. That fragment is the Watanagashi chapter. Shion Sonozaki was cursed in that one. She killed many people out of revenge for her boyfriend's disappearance, as he went missing in 1982. Really? This happened in Watanagashi? Just kidding. Rika worked so hard, but she was captured at the end and she was tortured to death. That's why she chose to commit suicide in the Meakashi chapter, because things were going to turn out the same way. That fragment over there is called the Tatarigoroshi chapter. Ugh. Satoko's uncle came back and locked her up inside her house. Oh, now it changed the sprites back to normal. See? Anyway. Yes, I'm gonna read the stuff, William, don't worry. That was the worst of all. There was nothing Rika was able to do in that world. Whenever Satoko's uncle comes back, Rika usually just gives up on that world. Really? Fortunately, Satoko's uncle doesn't come back that frequently. That one is called Sumi Horoboshi, or that one's called the Sumi Horoboshi chapter. Rika was there until just a moment ago. Rena Ryugu was possessed in that world. It was pretty exciting to see her take over the whole school. It surprised me to learn that Keiichi Maebara had a memory of the other worlds just like we do. It was pretty amazing, but then again, most of us have some kind of memory like that. We all have an imaginary world within us, some idea of what would have happened if you did things differently. It's like the strange feeling you get when you do something for the first time, but it feels like you've done it before. Everyone has a memory of an imaginary world in their mind, but the memory is not always that clear. It's not surprising, really. You are special enough to be able to see those fragments of memory. It's probably very difficult for you to understand how special you really are. You were born into a world where it's a natural thing for you to see these fragments. I was originally born in the normal world. I didn't know until recently that I could collect these fragments of memory. You grab those fragments just because you could, but I didn't know how to do that for a long time. I'm sorry. I'm sure you're not interested in hearing my story. Huh? What's wrong? What are you curious about? Oh? You're curious as to why so many different incidents occur in the same world? It's very interesting, isn't it? Why do you think that's the case? Let's think about it together. Thinking is the first step towards playing a game. The main characters among Rika's group of friends is Keiichi Maebara. In Onikakushi, he was possessed by a suspicion and killed Rena Ryugu and Mion Sonozaki. If that was an inevitable event, he would be killing them in every world. In other words, what Keiichi Maebara did in Onikakushi was not inevitable. Indeed, the only thing that's inevitable is Keiichi Maebara's role. If Maebara Keiichi was someone with a naturally suspicious heart, he would take the same actions in every world. But that didn't happen. It's true that Maebara Keiichi is both passionate and easily convinced of anything, but it's rare for him to exhibit that kind of rage he displayed in Onikakushi. In other words, even though something might seem inevitable in one world, that may not be the case if you compare it to a different one. If something really is inevitable, it will happen for sure in every life. That's what true inevitability is like. It's very important that you know that. When you compare the different worlds, what's common among all of them is the truth. Understand? Like I said, what seems inevitable in one life could just be a random event in another. The club activities that Mion Sonozaki suggests are a good example. If Mion Sonozaki had a strong inclination towards playing certain games, you would be playing them in every world. But in reality, you participate in different activities in most of them. That means that the games they play in the club are randomly decided by Mion Sonozaki. We know that now because we've been through many different lives. Those who only live in one world can't see if the event in question is inevitable or random. Those who only live once can't predict what's going on in Sonozaki Mion's mind, but we can. Although the activities are random, Sonosuke Mion calls us together for the club meeting almost every day in every life. I can see that Sonosuke Mion holds a strong will towards having the club meeting. Sonosuke Mion always wants to play with the other club members, but she doesn't know what to play. See? We can read Sonosuke Mion's mind just by simply examining these fragments. With this alone, we can see part of who Sonosuke Mion really is. Let me talk a bit more about Maebara Keiichi. For those who only live once, the world of the Onikakushi chapter is nothing but a story where Keiichi suffered mysterious hallucinations and beat his friends to death. For them, there's nothing beyond that fact. We, however, can compare different fragments and find out something they could never see. As a result, we know that the murder of his friends was not inevitable. I told you that just earlier. In fact, while there were about 5 or 6 pieces in front of you, he only kills his friends in one of them. That means we can roughly conclude that the possibility Maebara Keiichi triggers the tragedy is less than 20% and is almost a fluke. This means that amongst the countless worlds, Keiichi causing a tragedy is an unimportant factor. The tragedy? As in the disaster? Or him killing his friends? Now, you can find the common thread to be drawn from... Can you find the common thread to be drawn from here? My, you found it already. No wonder you were born in this world. You're quick to learn the knack for playing with building blocks. I didn't figure that out for a while. I was born into the normal world, so I could only see things from a single world's perspective. I'm assuming the person that's talking right now is like... Rika, but like... the real Rika. And the one that we're talking to right now, or the one that they are talking to, the one the narrator is talking to, is not necessarily ourselves, right? It's like whatever the Rika is inside of Rika is, if that makes sense. Because this whoever is talking to us is not from this world, right? So they must have been human or something, and then maybe became enlightened and transcended. I don't fucking know. I was too obsessed with the fact that Maebara Keiichi caused the tragedy, so I had trouble finding it. Right, that's exactly right. You see it? The Onikakushi, Watanagashi, Meakashi, and Sumihoroboshi chapters all have something in common. Someone in the group becomes violent because of dark and paranoid thoughts. In each world, either Maebara Keiichi, Shion Sonosuke, shit, I should have read it backwards, Ryugu Rena, or Ryugu Rena become violent as their delusions grew stronger. Right. Oh, stream died, it seems. But it looks like I'm back. Well, like I said, I was hoping stream wouldn't die, but it's still gonna be a thing. It might happen every now and again, unfortunately. Either way, Maebara Keiichi, Sonosuke Shion, and Ryugu Rena are all my close friends, but they were all born and raised differently. The only common factor is that they all live in Hinamizawa. I just said it not too long ago, though. When we peer through these fragments of multiple worlds, the constant phenomena become our facts, and the chance phenomena hold little meaning. In other words, the unrelated, individual culprits are not all that important. To go further, the violence of their crimes also bears no meaning. Maebara Keiichi beats his friends to death. Sonosuke Shion killed the central people in the 3 families, and Ryugu Rena took over the school. They were all different. There's nothing in common there. In fact, the very, very important truth is that while the culprit and crimes are decided at random, their process of growing paranoid until they resort to violence is always constant, right? The suspect changes every time, but the process does not. After comparing the different worlds, this is the truth I found. This is one truth that is common to all the worlds of Hinamizawa. The rule is that a random person becomes violent under the influence of paranoid thoughts. This is Rule X. Maebara Keiichi, Sonosuke Shion, Ryugu Rena, pieces with no particular connection have the potential to succumb to that rule with a random probability. I don't know what the probability is that those pieces will be ensnared by that rule. Perhaps there is some rule to that too. Is it because these three are all close in age? Or is it because they all live in Hinamizuwa? Well, we're not detectives or police officers. This is not something that a small girl like us, Rika Furude, can easily figure out. I knew it. I knew it. It is Rika. Like talking to herself or her version of herself or whatever. Like the Rika inside of Rika. Anyway, at least we know that there's a mysterious rule in the world of Hinamizuwa. People who only live in one world have no way of knowing that. I'm proud of myself for figuring that out. I guess for you it's not particularly surprising though. Huh? What did you say? That's right. If something is common among all the worlds, that means it's fated to happen. Right. Some events quickly come to mind, don't they? Yeah, like the Watanagashi festival. Yeah, them two dying during the festival. On top of that, they are murdered in exactly the same way in every world. In other words, unlike our previous rule with its variability, their murders are thoroughly planned out by someone with a strong will. My guess is if somehow this, if these, like, predetermined or these constant factors get interrupted in some way, shape, or form, the quote-unquote mastermind will probably appear. I don't know. So, that does not fit with the mysterious vague rule X that leads to a random individual to violence. After all, they are always murdered regardless of who falls to rule X. Therefore, there's another rule to these worlds. A rule that says Jiro Tomitake and Mio Takano will get killed on the night of the Watanagashi. Let's call it Rule Y. That's what I was thinking. I'm like, oh, is this gonna be Rule Y? Yes. Don't you see how funny that is? Tomitake Jiro and Takano Mio are killed in every world, right? Every time the character who gets cursed always thinks that their deaths have something to do with the danger that's awaiting them. The fact that someone turns violent, Rule X, and Jiro Tomitake and Takano Mio's death, Rule Y, are supposed to be two independent rules. But they all tend to link them together. Of course, one would say that's how they become ensnared in the spell of paranoia, leading them to violence to begin with. But do you think in their paranoia that they notice someone is trying to lead them to link those rules together? That's a good question. So, is it Oishi? Because if you think about it, Oishi is the one that reveals the deaths to every single character. There is not a single character that figured out that, like, Takano or Tomitake died without being told by Oishi, or without finding out, or without being told by someone who was told by Oishi. For example, in Chapter 5, Shion, who we know as Mion, is told, hey, Takano died, by the way. So did Tomitake. And then she tells Keiichi. Right, so Keiichi finds out by proxy. In the other chapters, Rena is told by Oishi, Keiichi is told by Oishi in chapter 1, and so on. Or at some other point, when Oishi needs something from the character, they will bring it up. So he's the one that does this every single time. So I know that, like, during the post-chapter discussion, Billy was like, hey, and the last character, or whatever, is like, Oishi. It's like, do you think Oishi killed Rika? And I'm like, huh. I don't think he would have a reason to, but maybe he's the one that's actually forcing everyone to go through this. Also, he could write a best-selling novel. Is that the whole fucking plot of this game? Is that what I've been reading these past 8 chapters for? I'm supposed to like Oishi enough so that I can buy the fact that he wanted to sell a visual novel about murders in Hinamizuwa? Anyway. Yes. Whoever the piece leading them is, they are the ones making the stage called Hinamizuwa very complicated. You should have noticed at least 2 suspicious people. Do you know who I'm talking about? 2 suspicious people. For sure, Oishi then. Who would be suspicious person number 2? It's not Rika because we're talking to Rika. The only other one would kind of be Takano because she's the one that kind of spurs the whole, hey, look into the mysteries of Hinamizawa thing. That's right. I'm a fucking genius! This is so dumb. But yeah. The second they come up on screen. Oh my god. Anyway. I'm referring to Oishi Kuraldo and Takano Mio. When you compare our previous fragments, the role of the piece known as Oishi becomes clear. He's a detective who's retiring this year and he's in a hurry to solve the mystery of the series of deaths in Hinamizawa. I still can't believe I got it. Do you know who we're talking about? Yeah, Oishi and like Takano. That's right. Oishi and Takano. Anyway, after he retires, he'll have to move away from the village. That's why he's desperate to solve this case before he has to leave Hinamizawa. Why is he so obsessed with the serial murders in Hinamizawa? I don't know, maybe he'll get a bonus? That's right. It's because the first murder yeah, right. It was his friend who was the the mahjong player, who happened to be also the manager of the construction site. The victim was Oishi's close friend. You will see that if you look at the Himatsubushi chapter, right? Oishi was there when the dam conflict was at its peak. He saw how the Sonosuke family took control of the Onigashiki Guardians, and he believed that the Sonosuke family was pulling the strings behind the whole incident. That's why he always suspected that the Sonosuke family was behind the series of mysterious deaths, regardless of the evidence or lack thereof. His personal biased belief combined with his credibility as a police officer affected the pitiable victims of persecution complexes in each world. As a result, the pitiful victims of Rule X come to accept the Sonosuke family as the identity of the unknown force their paranoia seeks. Oh-huh? Uh-huh. So Shion Sonosuke's case was the most conspicuous one in that matter. So yes, if this piece, Oishi, didn't intervene, then perhaps the victims of Rule X wouldn't have resorted to such violence. So the role his pieces play is to indirectly cause the tragedy. I don't know who named this, but Oyashiro-sama's servant is the perfect nickname for Oishi. The other suspicious person is Takano Mio. One would assume that the only role her piece is to amuse herself with the research into Onigashchi's dreadful history, and to take pleasure in scaring others with those tales. However, just like Oishi, she also gives them the idea that the Sonosuke family is behind all the mysterious incidents that happen in the village. She interfered the most with the Ryugu Rena. For Takano Mio, Ryugu Rena was the perfect prey grasping at straws to try to identify the force she suspected. Ironically, however, Takano Mio always ends up getting killed at the end. If she had survived and seen Rena take over the school, she would have laughed long and loud. Now, have you realized that these two pieces and the roles they fulfill have their own rule too? Let's see. Well, Takano always dies after giving her notebooks to someone. And then Oishi, I would say Oishi wants the scrapbooks, but that's not it. What does Oishi want? What would his rule be? Besides intimidating the characters into acting on his behalf. That's the only other quote-unquote rule I can think of for Oishi-san. Where he will scare Keiichi, for example, to get what he wants. He'll scare all the characters, except for the Sonosuke sisters because they hate him. Okay, so maybe rule... Yeah, so for Takano is maybe the scrapbooks are her dying, and for Oishi is him corroborating with the children, I guess? They talk about the Sonosuke family, and the listeners always believe them. Okay, there's that too. I mean, that kind of applies, I guess. Because that's what the notebooks are all about. And then Oishi talks to all the children about the Sonosuke family. Anyway, this is Rule Z, and what a humorous rule it is. You should already have an answer to this mystery in your fragments on hand. Let me get my notebook. The fact is that the Sonosuke family always acts as if they are responsible no matter if they are not. They always pretend to be the villains in order to make sure that the people continue to fear them. As a result, the villagers have believed that the Sonosuke family has been pulling the strings ever since the damn conflict ended. Oishi and Takano were simply fooled by that rule. Actually, the whole village is fooled by it. True. Still, the more I think about it, the stranger the series of mysterious deaths in Hinamizawa seems to me. Do you know why? Nearly all of the fragments of memories we have here are from 1983, so I have no idea about the incidents from 1980 to 1982. But it's likely that interpreting these murders as serial is simply a result of falling victim to Rule Z, believing that the Sonosuke family is pulling the strings behind everything. In short, they may be trying to conflate those multiple crimes which each happened for different reasons into one big case. Well, I have no way of discerning the truth from the fragments here. Still, perhaps something lies in one of them. Each case was supposed to have been solved individually after all. We don't know if that theory is sound or irrational, but it might surprisingly be an element we can't ignore. That reminds me, Shion said something intriguing in the Miyakashi chapter. That curse system she came up with. Do you remember that? I actually do not, because it's been a bit. Her theory was that the villagers believed that they were allowed to kill an enemy of the village on the night of the Watanagashi in the name of Oyashiro-sama's curse. I think I remember this. And that is the foundation of the murder is allowed on that night alone is the true identity of the curse. Since most of these fragments here are from 1983, there's nothing to back the validity of Shion's theory, but there are still interesting things about it. In other words, her theory is that the suspect is not the one who's committing the crime. It's the environment that's causing the murder. Right, it's the chemicals in the water. People in a single world tend to analyze a criminal's life to determine the process that led them to the crime. Jeez. It choked a bit. But her idea is different. The real crime is committed not by the criminals, but by the environment. In other words, it may only be happenstance that Robert A committed the crime. And the environment of poverty may have created Robert B instead. Oh boy. One sec. Okay. Or perhaps even Robert C. And may not even be a criminal in another world. Therefore, the real criminal is not A, but the environment that creates A, B, or C. And well, while people in a single world may still be able to reach such an idea, the widespread desire to place blame commonly causes A to be lynched by society, while the environment that gave rise to A goes ignored. Did I confuse you? No. I'm sorry. Perhaps that example was actually harder to understand for you. It's easy for me to see it like that because I'm from the normal world. Let me make it simple for you. The culprit behind the tragedy in many worlds isn't individuals like Maebara Keiichi, Sonosuke Shion, but the environment. So, Rule X is the true culprit at fault. You're earning good marks if you can grasp that, even if we don't know the identity of Rule X. Right. Okay. And if you can grasp the three rules governing the stage called Hinamizawa, rules X, Y, and Z, then you're earning very good marks. So long as you understand those rules, then even if this is your first experience world, you should easily find the truth without distraction. See? Isn't it fun? Merely 3 simple rules are interacting on this stage, creating a kaleidoscope of different worlds. This is probably a very unusual case. In other locations, you shouldn't be able to see such extreme variation even after looping through several worlds. It keeps me entertained just staying here and watching these worlds revolve. Anyway, there's one more fact that we can understand from these fragments of worlds. This is the biggest problem we Rikafurudes are facing. I knew it! It's 2 Rikas! The fact that Rikafurude always dies each time. It's as if June 1983 is a dead end for her. Worse, there's no randomness to it. It's guaranteed to happen. In other words, it's the same pattern as the deaths of Jiro Tomitake and Mio Takano. It's following the exact same rule, Rule Y. Jiro and Mio are always murdered on the night of the Watanagashi. Rikafurude's date of death is not always the same, but she's always dead by the middle of June. Right, at some point after the Watanagashi, and at some point before or after Satoko's birthday. Tomitake and Takano are probably attacked on their way home, so that's why it always happens on the same night. But for Rika, it's different. She takes different actions in every world, and her lifestyle is very unpredictable. For that reason, the day of her death is not always the same. Also, hey, Wholesome, thanks for stopping by over on the Twitch side. However, she always dies in June. No. Don't call them those files. However, she always dies in June because a similar powerful conviction vows to kill her too. Yes, but whomst? So we can assume that the same rule why killing them is also the rule behind her death. Or sorry, so can we assume? Is the same person killing all three of them? I don't know if it's the same person, but it's highly likely that the same rule is at work. If so, if it is the same rule, it would not be Oishi killing Rika. Because we know in one of the chapters, I believe it was in Onikakshi. Actually, no, I'm pretty sure it's in all of them. That Oishi is called by whatever cop is on duty that finds the body every single time. Anyway. Is it the same person or the same organization? Is it the same views? Is it the same goals? Rika's most important goal is to escape her deadly fate. But it doesn't mean that she just wants to leave the village and survive. She wants to live happily in the village. Oh, I see, it was a typo. Yeah, I'm basically reading anything that isn't voice acted. So far, everything here has been, just text. But anytime there is voice acting, I just don't read that. Anyway. All of her friends must also be happy too. That's Rika's happy future. The ideal future she hopes for. It's tragic that we can't realize such a simple desire no matter how many times we repeat this. Though it's a tragedy we're only able to perceive because we're beings capable of comparing the fragments from different worlds. Either way, I have some interesting information. While Rika is almost killed by Rule Y, have you noticed that she's killed by Rule X in some worlds? Right. In Minagoroshi, she's literally killed. Well, she kills herself, but I guess in what was it? In Watanagashi, she's killed by Mion, who's Shion, who's actually Mion. Right. Right. It happened in the Watanagashi and Minagoroshi chapters. Rika Furuta committed suicide, but you can say she was more or less killed by Rule X via Shion Sonozaki in these worlds. In other words, this is a blunder for Rule Y. Rule Y is trying to kill Rika with a strong desire to achieve some aim, but she was killed before that as a result of the unrelated Rule X. Right. And this is also kind of like what was throwing a wrench in the works, or at least it was my theory that like Rika dying is what triggers the Great Hinamizawa disaster. Because that only applies to certain chapters, where only in certain chapters her dying would immediately result in the Great Hinamizawa disaster taking place, while in others she died before it even happened. That might have caused them to show some disturbance. If Rule Y's objective is simply to bury Rika, then that's not a problem. But if they have some objective beyond that, then that might show up as some other phenomenon. Perhaps the Watanagashi and Minagoroshi chapters have something in common. Something that doesn't happen in other worlds. Unfortunately, we're Rika Furude, so we don't know what happens after Rika is dead. Or, by any chance, do you know what happened? Since I'm Rika Furude, I only know the events during Rika's life. You, on the other hand, are a special existence who was born in a superior world. Is there anything that didn't happen in the Watanagashi and Minagoroshi chapters? That happened in all the other worlds after Rika's deaths? The Great Hinamizawa disaster didn't happen in them as far as we know. If you know anything, then that must be another truth behind Rule Y. The memories I have here are all mainly about the chaos brought about by Rika's friends, that is Rule X, but its foundation, Rule Z, and the obvious hostility common among all worlds, Rule Y, are what I believe to be the true rules governing this stage. If so, then Rika's path is the thorny one. or eighth horny one. She needs to fight Rule Y in order to survive. Unless she defeats it, she has no future past June 1983. And to win her own happiness, she must also beat Rule X to win her friend's safety. So as long as that's undefeated, one of Rika's precious friends may also be led to tragedy. If that happens, then even should Rika survive, she wouldn't have the happy future she hopes for. She also may have to defeat Rule Z, just as Sonosaki Shion faced it in Miyakashi. So long as Rule Z remains, even if she escapes 1983, it's possible another tragedy may lie waiting in 1984. It's extremely likely that Rule Z is the breeding ground for Rule X. Hinamizawa's fundamental belief that the Sonosaki family is behind everything, and the custom that anything can be misconstrued as the curse, may indirectly be the root of all evil here. People are not surprised to see somebody die on the night of Watanagashi. That type of thinking is keeping the curse alive in Hinamizawa, where it causes even more tragedy. It's Rule Z reinforcing itself. Rules X, Y, and Z. These are 3 rules that hunt Rika down in the eternal June of 1983. They are all tough obstacles. We didn't even figure out these 3 common rules until recently. Were you aware of them? To an extent. If you were, I'll give you straight A's. I've tried so hard in the past to break these rules, but I was never successful. However, a miracle happened in the Tsumihoroboshi chapter. Keiichi was able to recognize a small fragment from another world by chance, and he beat Rule X. In the end, Rika was still killed that night by Rule Y though. But still, one rule was defeated. That was a huge leap forward. Rika knew that there were 3 common rules among the worlds, but she could never break any of them. Eventually, she gave up and lost interest in the worlds. That's how I was born. However, she's different now. She learned something valuable from Maebara Keiji. That the rules can be broken with a strong enough will to fight. If she can break all 3 rules, Furude Rika will be freed from her eternal prison. She doesn't have much time left though. Rika has traveled through many worlds. Her physical lifespan is not a problem, but her mental lifespan is getting shorter. Huh? Her physical lifespan is not a problem, but her mental lifespan is getting shorter. As in, she's growing, like, literally mentally old? Like her mind is deteriorating with each jump? Mentally... Mentally, she's extremely old, and her soul is starting to turn into something different. Jesus fuck, I'm just predicting everything, aren't I? Maybe I'm just very astute. I don't know. But anyway, in the end, she'll probably lose the ability to experience singular worlds. The fuck does that mean? Singular worlds. She's already showing those signs, and eventually her memories from the parallel worlds will mix together, ultimately causing her derangement, and the loss of Rika Furude's soul, I see. Then she will disappear. That means that you and I are going to be left in this dark world. The fragments of our memories will gradually disappear, and we will be left alone in the eternal darkness. Eventually, we will die. Furude Rika is aware of that. She knows that her mental lifespan is getting shorter and shorter. Hanyu is also losing her powers. Who? Who? Who the fuck are we talking about? Fuck is Hanyu? She can't rewind through the years of time like she used to. Who the fuck is Hanyu? Her power has decreased so much that she can barely rewind 1 month of time. Excuse me? Actually, she can only rewind a few weeks. In the next world, she would only have about 2 weeks of time. Rika Furude is going to try to break all 3 rules in just those 2 weeks. So that's gonna be the... Is that the god inside her head? Wait. I wanted to know what's outside the well, so I tried to claw my way up there. I wanted to know what's outside the well, so I continued to climb even when I fell and injured myself. I finally realized the higher I climb, the more pain I feel when I fall. When my curiosity towards the world and my physical pain become equal, I finally understand the meaning of the frog in the well. Federica... Man, I barely managed to read this. This is a work of fiction. Right. Chapter 7. Minagoroshi. Okay, there might be an intro movie So be careful, get ready. Get ready to look away if you do not want to be spoiled. Are you ready? There it is. Alright, look away. Oh boy. What an intro. Anyway. I felt no gravity in the darkness and lost all my senses as a result. I banged my head on the floor with a dull thud. Seeing stars behind my eyelids, I curled into a ball while holding my head in pain. I knew it. I knew we were playing as Rika. I knew it. I had no idea why I was in this situation, but as soon as I heard their voices from the top of the cliff, I realized that I must have fallen. Ah, I remember. I was playing behind the shrine with the rest of the club members. I got too excited and started doing something very dangerous. Then the tree branch broke. That's how I fell off the cliff. My body started to ache all over. I remembered how I fell, but I still felt strange for some reason. I couldn't remember what I was doing. No, it was more that I couldn't remember who Rika Furude was before I fell off the cliff. I heard Hanyu's panicked voice. Who? Who the fuck is this? Who's this creature? Okay, so yeah, the character that was spoiled by, the cover art or whatever is here. I looked behind me and saw Hanyu standing there with a scared look on her face.
Hanyu. これは一体何事なの？はうはう。リカはみんなと遊んでて崖から転げ落ちたのです。大丈夫なのですか？
Is this supposed to be the half of Rika that sounds like, the cute one that we know? Meanwhile, the real Rika, the one that's, growing ancient and grappling with dementia every single day, or with each passing, leap, is, the one that's actually in Rika's body, and this is the, the one that, she performed mitosis, and then Hanyu is the one that popped out instead of another Rika?
Hanyu, そんなことはどうでもいいわ。
Because otherwise, Rika right now would be saying, so this, she'd be making her cute noises. and stuff.
今日はいつ？昭和何年の何月何日？
I always ask this question first when something like this happens. She finally realized that I was asking the same old question.
昭和58年6月なのです。綿流しのお祭りが再来週なのですから、
I despise her voice, by the way. I hate when characters talk like this. It's like the anime trope that I fucking hate the most. Cause it's like a 40-year-old woman trying to do the voice of a 13-year-old girl, and to me it sounds fucking weird. And I just don't like it. But anyway, I'm unfortunately gonna have to bear with it.
なんてこと。それしか猶予がないってわけ。
Also, why does she have horns?
僕たちの力もこれが精一杯なのです。
Right, okay. So she was the one that... So it's not like a... It's not that we're, like, jumping through worlds, but it's like she's rewinding time, maybe? Or going to another world and rewinding time at some point after we die. After Rika dies, I guess. Hanyu muttered regretfully. It was the middle of June 1983. If this really was the best she could do, I had no choice. I couldn't complain. I gradually started to remember more things.
私がまた昭和58年の6月にいるということは、また私は殺されたのか。
Okay, I will lower the audio a tiny bit. There we go. After Urena surrendered to the police, all of the classmates were given checkups at the clinic. I didn't get hurt, so I was sent back home after they determined that I had no injuries. My memory started getting vague from that point on, a common characteristic of my violent deaths. When my life is taken away violently, the memory before death becomes vague with static. It's like a violently ripped roll of toilet paper. That example should make it easy to understand, even if it's uncouth. Huh. Okay. That's why I have no clear memory of what happened and how I died that night. I only have vague memories. I think someone covered my mouth with a handkerchief or something and I passed out. That's about the only thing I remember, and only vaguely. I'm not even sure if it really happened. The only thing I know for sure is that I was attacked on my way home, or possibly after I got there, and that I was murdered suddenly. I don't know who killed me or how I was killed. I'm glad that at least I don't remember I don't remember the horrific ending to my life every time it happens. Because of my experiences, I think I now understand why ghosts wander around this world, not knowing that they died so suddenly. If it's death from a long-lasting illness, people tend to remember that they were sick. They can kind of assume that they died after being sick, for a long time. But when your memory is violently disrupted like mine, it can get quite confusing. When I first experienced this, I wasn't sure if I was dreaming or not. I even thought that I hit my head hard and lost my memory. I needed to organize things before I got too confused. My name is Rika Furude. I am 11 years old. Every morning I have a special routine. Anyway, people look at me in a special way, but that's not a big deal for me. All I want is a happy life where I can play around with my best friends. I can't remember how long I've been living just for the sake of obtaining that simple happiness. This panicked girl here is named Hanyu. So there we go. Here we get to see La Criatura in all her presence, I guess. So I'm assuming this is because, like, Rika said she can see ghosts. I assume it's this thing. God. How much you want to bet she looks horrifying in the remake art? Ugh. Oh, gross. Swap, thank you. Holy shit. What a disgusting creature. I'm the only one who can see her. Perhaps she only exists inside of my head. At any rate, Hanyu's invisible and can generally only interact with me. It'll be a long story if I try to explain Hanyu's existence, so I won't be doing that right now. Besides, I don't even know how I should talk about her. She's been there since I was born, and her existence is a natural thing for me. She's had a tulpa ever since she was born. That's really fucking funny. Can you fucking imagine? I saw everyone running up the gravel road toward me. They're my important and lovable best friends. Our group's activities boisterous. Sorry, our group's active, boisterous, and we get serious about doing stupid things. Yeah, sorry for like my lack of reading comprehension. Apparently, I'm sucking today. My throat still kind of hurts from yesterday though, because we did do a 5-hour stream just giving my thoughts and opinions on the whole series. Anyway, I'm never bored when I'm around them, and I love them very much.
リカちゃん大丈夫？捻挫とかしてない？どこ打ったの？おじさんに見せてみて。ありがとうなのです。頭にタンコブができただけなのですよ。
I think all I got was a bump at least. My injury wasn't as serious as everyone thought.
頭を打った時はその場では大丈夫でも油断がなりませんでしたよ。
それもそうだな。念には念で監督に診察してもらった方がいいかもしれないな。
Did Keiichi always have like kinda purple eyes? Let's see. They're more like violet or a blue so deep that it's already like moving on to the violet spectrum of the color wheel. I could have sworn they were brown. Anyway.
レナもそれがいいと思うな。どうしよう、監督を呼んでくる？そうだね。近くの家で電話を借りて監督を呼んでみるよ。そこまでしなくても大丈夫なのですよ。この通りピンピンしてますのです。ニパー。ダメですわよリカ。万が一ということがありましたよ。
Satoko warned me with a stern voice. It really wasn't a big deal, but I decided to nod since Satoko was trying to be generous. She wasn't trying to boss me around or anything. She was only saying that because of how much she cares. I've seen it before in many different lives that I've been through. I have no doubt that she's really concerned about me. It's not just Satoko. Mion, Rena, and Keiichi are the same. They're also nice to me and they truly do care. Mion left to look for a phone. Rena also left with a towel, looking for the tap water. Satoko remained nearby, taking care of me with a worried face. And Hanyu was just standing there, still wearing a panicked look. Also, hey Moon, thanks for stopping by over on the kick side. I appreciate it. You're not a cunt. Stop saying that. Keiichi seemed to be panicked too, but he was trying not to show it. He was standing by me wearing a calm expression.
大丈夫か？
大丈夫なのですよ。もう全然痛くないのです。
なら不幸中の幸いだったよな。よかったよかった。
I wouldn't feel anything special about his words if this was a while ago. But at that moment when Rena took over the classroom, when she hurt Mion, Keiichi tried his best to save Rena. Even so, he was more reliable than I ever imagined from his normal behavior. He's usually an insensitive guy who hurts other people's feelings without noticing, but that's not his true self. He has a secret side. He's willing to sacrifice himself for other people. I was just observing that not too long ago. That's why I can honestly feel his generosity now. Now that I think about it, Keiichi regained a memory from another world in the previous time around. Is it possible that he carries that memory in this world too? If that's the case, I have some hope. Hanyu and I are totally powerless. Hanyu is only like heir to everyone but me, and I'm just a little girl. There's only so much that we can do ourselves. But Keiichi is different. He changed the fate that I had once resigned myself to. He's somebody who may have the power to take me to my unseen future. If I can get Keiichi to understand me, he could be my hero. Perhaps I'm actually not expecting that much of him. I just want someone to understand my struggle of being stuck in this maze.
Keiichi?
I spoke to him slowly. It had been a while since I felt so nervous. I hadn't felt this way since I started my endless life in 1983. As a witch, I normally would know what his response would be before even talking to him. As a witch, I often remained silent because I already know how pitiful the reply would be. But in that case, Why was I so nervous now?
呼んだかリカちゃん。
Hanyu gave me a disappointed look before I responded to Keiichi.
リカ
I could tell what Hanyu was thinking too. The miracle wasn't going to happen. If miracles do happen, one could have happened many times like in my other lives. But I've only seen one miracle before. The miracle that Keiichi gave me was a once-in-a-lifetime kind of miracle. Only if it had happened again, it would be a true miracle. I won't get out of this world just because I rolled 6 on the die once. I can't get out of it unless I get a miracle that's equivalent to getting that's getting a 6 on the die 10 times in a row. And so I rolled 10 dice wishing that they'd all turn out to be 6.
ケイチ
どうしたんだよ。どこか痛むのか？
He looked at me worriedly after I called his name twice.
ケイチは覚えていますですか？
I knew how settling my question was. As I thought he would, he looked at me with a confused face.
え？覚えてるって何の話だよ。
Let's see, are they closer to us? No. I thought they would be like zoomed in. I looked inside his eyes to see his true feelings. He should remember. He should know. Even though he doesn't have the memory. Keiichi experienced it.
なんですのケイチさん。何かリカに悪いことでもしたんじゃありませんの？自分の胸によく聞いてごらんなさいですわよ。
Does Rika go crazy in this chapter? And she's the one that goes sicko mode and gets affected by the X factor? Like she's like, I can't take it anymore. You guys never fucking listen. And she holds the school hostage. You're gonna be forced to remember.
ケイチ、学校の屋根の上に登ったことを覚えていますですか？学校の屋根？ケイチさん、そんなとこに登ったんですの？サトコは黙っててなのです。ケイチ、覚えていませんですか？
俺が屋根の上にいつ？いや、リカちゃん、それは多分他の誰かの勘違いだろ。俺屋根なんか登ったことないし、登り方だって知らないよ。
Of course you haven't experienced it in this world yet. But please tell me that you remember. I know you've never been up on the roof, but you should still remember doing it. You shouldn't be able to remember it, true, but you actually did once. You should be able to remember it once again.
屋根の上にボールでも取りに行ったんじゃありませんの？
いや、そんな経験一度もねえよ。サトコは経験あるか？
まさか屋根の上なんて上がったら先生に怒られましたよ。
でもさ、屋根の上で昼寝とかしたら気分が良さそうだよな。
覚えてるわけないのですよ。そんな簡単に奇跡が起こるなら僕もリカもこんな苦労はしないのですよ。
Shut up. Does she say... let me just make sure. That's not damare. This says... Okay. Gotcha. Naruhodo ne. Shut up. I knew that. I knew that he wouldn't remember.
どうせまた僕たちはお祭りの終わりとともに消えてゆく夏のセミの運命なのです。うるさいな。
Yeah, urusai. As I stared at her fiercely, Hanyu realized that she crossed a line. This might be a waste of time. The maze we're in might not have an exit. It might be an endless loop without a goal in place. We are trapped in this fate. I thought that Keiichi might be able to get me out of here. But that Keiichi I saw was truly a miracle, a momentary glimmer. The Keiichi of this world doesn't bear that same miracle. All the same, I'm not going to give up. Last time too, I gave up on fighting destiny. I realized that Enna was beyond salvation, so I bid her farewell and forsook that world. But Keiichi fought and broke the cycle of fate. I should have worked harder with that Keiichi in that world. I could have broken this endless cycle together with him. Am I going to repeat this life waiting for that miracle to happen again? I can't do that. I don't want to repeat the same life anymore. I'm tired of it. I'm tired of this world, my fate, and everything. I'm tired of getting murdered by destiny. Oh no, the streamer. Keiichi showed me a miracle. I should be able to do the same too. I must fight. I must fight with all my remaining power. I was always fighting. I was fighting when I had more power, but I never made it. How can I expect to win this time? Still, I must fight. Keiichi taught me that fate can be shattered. I'm going to fight one more time. This music is really good. Like, the piano pieces are so nice. And I believe this is the first actual, like, transition, maybe? Oh no, it's the actual first end? Is it? Anyway, we're gonna read one more chapter after this. But let's view the new tip real quick. So, to my granddaughter. I'm sorry for leaving you like this. I just need you to understand that I'd rather take my own life than to be fearful of how many days I have left to live. That's why I'm writing this letter to you. I can't stand the fear of being unable to leave behind a will while my life is prolonged even as I lose my consciousness. In the end, there's nothing I can leave behind for you. I wasn't able to leave any of my achievements to this world. I was forgotten before I was dead. I leave this world a humiliated man, knowing that I had no appreciation from anyone. You must do better than me. You must achieve something that your grandfather was never able to achieve. I don't mind what field you choose. You must leave your mark on this world. You must leave behind your achievements. You will eventually die someday. You will eventually turn to ashes. As a human being, that's your inevitable fate. But if you achieve a great success, you will live forever, even after you depart. Those who live beyond their deaths are called gods. I wish to become one, but I was unable to do so. So in my place, you must become a god someday. Interesting. There are people that are obsessed with leaving a mark on this world. And to an extent, I kind of was like that too when I was younger. When I was a new university student, when I was still like a freshman. I really wanted to leave my mark on this world. And hopefully change the world in some way, right? Everyone has ambitions. It wasn't until later on in life that I realized, why the fuck do I want to leave a mark on the world and be remembered by thousands or millions or billions of people? Like, there's no point in that. And then I realized I could instead leave a mark on those near me, those who are around me. I could leave a mark on a smaller scale and hopefully impact the lives of those that I've met or those that I know in some positive way to make a change for them. And to some extent, it kind of has worked. By that I mean, how to word it without sounding egotistical. But I'm one of those people that you like meet, and if you get to know, I'm like unforgettable, which is both a blessing and a curse, I guess. Where I've met people, and our relationship, platonic or not, has been relatively positive, but then at some point it takes a turn for the worse. And whatever positive relationship we have sours, and it becomes a very bitter relationship, in the sense that they literally can't forget about me, and they despise me for as long as I exist. So that's one of the only downsides to it, of having it be on a smaller scale. But I mean, if it was on a larger scale, it'd be the same thing, just with more people. So I've learned to kind of just put that behind me. and just kind of focus on those that I've been able to affect positively. Like maybe if I did say something wrong to a person to make them hate me, I try to learn from that and maybe try not to repeat that mistake in the future. But in general, most of my relationships or most of my interactions with people are favorable to some extent. So I no longer seek immortality, I guess, metaphorically, because there's truly no reason for it. Only, how to word it? I think people who might be a little vain might seek that. But eventually, I think most people who are rational to some extent end up growing out of that phase of wanting to leave this immortal mark on their on the world that they live in. Because then you have some individuals who are so obsessed with becoming immortal that they end up achieving nothing. Because they keep wanting to do thing after thing after thing and they never achieve anything. Or they end up, they end up doing things left and right and never finishing something. And that kind of like relates to, well, my streams in a way. One of the reasons why I started streaming specifically was just to finish the games that I actually started playing. As silly as that might sound. Because I'm notorious for starting a bunch of games and never fucking finishing them. And it's a shame. Because, like, I'll do that over and over and over again. But at least through streams, by having people show up, or by actually uploading the videos to YouTube, I have some incentive to at least continue the stream. To at least continue the game itself and finishing it. And that's how I've been able to finish, well, all the games that I've played on my channel so far. And it's been pretty great. It's been a great time, that's for sure. So hopefully, I guess, if anyone is listening to this later on, at least to some extent, don't consider this me being preachy or whatever, but if you do have things that you have to do, don't let your ambitions get in the way of them. Don't let your fear of success or fear of failure get in the way of doing these things. Just do anything that you can, but try to finish something. If you start something, try to finish it, at least. Otherwise, well, you'll be stuck in this endless loop, kind of like Rika. Where, you'll never be able to get anything done. But either way, let's move on. Oh, and I should probably save just as we're done with chapter 1. Cool. Tsugi.
はい。もう結構ですよ。
Iria withdrew the needle from Satoko's arm. It must not have hurt much for the needle to be pulled out. Satoko kept her eyes closed in fear, thinking that the needle was still inside her arm.
さとこ、お注射はもう終わったのですよ。
Eh? We get to see Takano in a nurse outfit? Why is she wearing leggings? Why is she dressed like a cosplay nurse? Huh? Hold on. Let's see what she looks like in this one. Here she looks more like a normal nurse. What about here? Satoko looks relatively normal, but my god. Does Takano look fucking gross? She looks like a priest with long hair. Anyway.
あら、もう終わってたんですの。
Oh, actually, I don't think we've seen this background either. This is a new background. So that's what it looks like. And then here we have the console version. There it is. As Satoko opened her eyes, She found that Iria was no longer sitting in front of her. Takano was wiping her arm with rubbing alcohol instead.
そうよ。もう終わってたのよ。入江先生は私よりお注射が上手だから。終わったことにも気づかなかったでしょ。傷口を揉んじゃダメよ。できれば重いものも持たないこと。
ええ、分かっていましたよ。さとこは偉いのですよ。なでなでしてあげますのです。注射くらいもう全然平気ですのよ。理科に撫でられるような覚えはございませんですわ。
Not long ago, she would go into a panic when it was time for her to get her shot. The way she behaved today in itself is worthy of praise. Everyone in the room smiled, aware of that growth.
じゃあ、さとこちゃんはいつもの検査を受けてください。高野さん、お願いします。
ええ。さあ、さとこちゃん。いつものクイズをしましょうね。
Okay, and again, just taking advantage of the new sprite, we'll cycle through them real quick. Here's the console version. And the abomination. Oh, God. Ugh. I still can't get over that fucking face. My God, dude.
高野さんのクイズは答えにくい問題が多くて私苦手ですわね。
But by the way, it's not a bit. Like anytime I cringe at the manga gamer art, it's not a bit. I am like disgusted at the core of my soul seeing the abominations before me. Anyway, we're almost done. We will probably never have to see them ever again.
いつもと同じよ。答えづらい問題はわからないと言ってくれればいいわ。変に考え込まず、自然に思いついた答えを口にしてくれればいいのよ。
Takano smiled at Satoko to ease her tension. Then she led Satoko to a desk in the back of the examination room.
さとこの具合、良いといいのです。
I don't know if it's because of the heat, but Satoko has been showing negative symptoms since last month. A change of seasons can affect her physically and emotionally. It's not a surprise that this is happening to her.
私は入江たちのところへでも行って。さ、羽生はどうする？僕はさとこのそばにいてあげますのです。ありがとう。そうしてあげて。
Hanyu went over to where Satoko was. Fortunately, I'm the only one who can see Hanyu. She won't be a distraction if she goes and observes Satoko's test. I, of course, would be a distraction like that. This is supposed to be a routine exam, but it seems like Takano is teasing her by giving her difficult questions. It would be pretty funny to observe how Satoko reacts to them. I'm a little jealous that Hanyu gets to watch everything without being a bother to Satoko. Iria was talking with two other staff members about Satoko's exam results. I walked up and joined them.
よかった。では、解放に向かっていますか。
From what Iria was saying, her results must have turned out well.
入江、どうなのですか？
安心してください。いい結果が出ました。では、あとよろしくお願いします。
After ordering his staff to continue their work, Iria showed me some difficult paperwork and started explaining it to me.
先週の検査結果に少々焦りすぎたようです。急に気候が変わったので、交感神経が過敏に反応したのでしょう。風邪をひきかけたりということはありませんでしたか？
There was one night recently that was fairly hot. Satoko was sleeping without her blanket and her stomach was exposed. She might have caught a cold that night.
お腹を出して寝てたことがありましたです。おへそをつっついたけど起きなかったのです。
それは羨ましい。ぜひ今度そういうことがあったら呼んでください。
Please call me if it happens again.
私もさとこちゃんのおへそをプニプニしてみたいものです。
プニプニなのですよ。お腹もぽよぽよなのです。かわいいからお布団をかけるのがもったいないのですよ。
それが寝冷えの真相ですか。
リーカー、聞こえていましたよ。 いう時はこっそりお布団をかけてくださいませ。
ダメよ、さとこちゃん。検査中よ。時間も計ってるんだから、こっちに集中して。
Irie, Hanyu, and I all laughed. Satoko went back to her test with a bitter look on her face. Irie began speaking to me in a softer voice.
ただ、小康状態には戻りましたが、レベルはレベル3マイナス。
Erevoru City? The fuck is that even supposed to mean?
昨日も今日も明日も危険な状態を脱していないことに変わりはありません。
レベル3は永遠に治らないのですか？
アナフィラキシーショックと同じで、仮に異物が完全に取り除かれても、人体側に過剰な反応を示す体質が作られてしまいます。
Anaphylaxis. An allergic reaction that occurs rapidly after exposure to an allergen, such as certain foods, insect stings, or medications. Symptoms can include difficulty breathing, swelling hives, and a drop in blood pressure, requiring immediate medical attention and treatment with epinephrine.
つまり、
さとこは完治しても一生。
そういうことになります。ですが、悲観することはありません。規則正しい生活習慣とセルフコントロール、そしてある種の投薬を続けることによって症状の発生を抑えることができます。
一生治らない。
I looked at Satoko as she enjoyed taking her test. She seemed to be having fun even while being teased by Takano. I can't believe that she's suffering from an incurable disease.
言葉を悪く言えばそうなります。ですが、世の中には難病ではあってもうまく病気と付き合っていけるケースも少なくありません。
例えば糖尿病がそうでしょう。
病気そのものは生涯治りませんが、その発症は抑えることができます。
I know that very well. There are many worse diseases in the world. Satoko might be in a relatively good situation compared to many other sick people.
もちろんこれで妥協するつもりはありません。さとこちゃんはきっと完治させます。絶対にです。
信じてますですよ。
ええ、信じてください。
Idia spoke to me with a serious look on his face. As Satoko's best friend, I felt relieved to hear his words. I'm sure he'll do his best to save Satoko's life. I have no doubt that he'll do so. I've seen him act like this in every life I've lived. I also know why he's so passionate to save her, but I'm not supposed to know about it in this life. That's why I always pretend not to see his sad smile.
そうだ、リカさん。
Did he lose a family member to the same disease and that's what he's so passionate about? Anyway.
月末にまた少し大掛かりな検査があります。
今度は僕がモルモットになる番なのですか？
そんなつもりは。医学に貢献していただいていますし、大勢の人を救うことにもなります。
Idia's guinea pig is not just Satoko. I'm also one of them. Although guinea pig is probably not the right term, without Idia's efforts, Satoko would not be here today. For that reason, I should be showing respect to this man. I smiled at him, since my choice of words had hurt his feelings.
僕を調べてさとこの治療に役立つのなら、僕がモルモットでもいいのです。
ご協力を感謝します。もう少し人と設備とお金があれば、これだけの負担をかけないのですが。
The next moment, the phone rang. Idia answered it in his usual business-like tone.
はい、もしもし、入江です。
東京から外線です。そちらへ回します。
I could hear the voice from the phone.
リサさんですね。
Risa.
もう今年もそんな時期になりましたか。電話は所長室で取りますから、そっちへ回してください。
はい。ではすみません。そちらの受話器を一度切ってください。
わかりました。リカさん、すみません。 東京からの電話です。
いってらっしゃいなのですよ。
As soon as Idia hung up the phone in the other room started ringing. He left the examination room and headed toward the office. Hanyu returned to my side as soon as Idia left. Hanyu doesn't like to be around me when I'm talking with Idia. I don't think she dislikes him. It's just that she doesn't really want to hear what he has to say. Idia doesn't mean any harm, but Hanyu is often hurt by the things that come out of his mouth.
どう？さとこの様子は？さとこは相変わらず間違い探しは下手くそなのです。僕の方がいっぱい見つけられましたのですよ。
Okay, so here's another sprite. So here she is smiling. And then this thing. Ugh.
あんたの検査結果なんてどうでもいいでしょ。さとこの結果はどうなの？
Aw. I don't care how well you did. What about Satoko? Ugh. I thought she was there to check on Satoko. She was taking a quiz alongside her instead. That's so typical of Hanyu. She was treating it almost like a game, but Satoko was tired after taking the same quiz every week. She seemed sleepy, especially after waking up so early this morning. The quiz in this case wasn't about a right or wrong answer. It was about timing in minutes, how long it took her to answer the question, and observing how she acted during the quiz. Not all of the questions would be simple ones, so Satoko often got headaches, more so than the spelling test we'd take at school.
もうほとんど終わりなの？はいです。今、高野が持っているのが最後の一冊なのですよ。
Takano was showing a book to Satoko with abstract pictures inside. She looks so fucking smug. Ugh. I couldn't even tell if that was supposed to be a picture. It was just a symmetrical ink stain.
さあ、これで最後よ。これは何に見えるかしら？
Both Hanyu and I looked at the picture over Satoko's shoulders. Even I didn't know what to answer when looking at the strange ink stain. Satoko continued to think. Takano observed her taking notes while Satoko struggled. She was also timing how long it took her to answer, holding a stopwatch under the table. I spoke to Hanyu so only she could hear me.
羽生は何に見える？このシミ。ソフトクリームなのです。すべて落としてしまって地面にべっしゃりとなのです。もったいない。なるほど。実に相手の考えがわかるテストね。
To me, it looked like a horse mackerel that had been cut open and its guts pulled out. I was thinking of food too. It was rather shocking to learn that my thought processes are the same as Hanyu's.
何に見えるかしら？思いつきでいいのよ。
Satoko must not be very good at this test. She always takes a long time to answer questions like this. She finally opened her mouth to speak.
2匹の蝶々が重なっている感じですわね。
2匹の蝶々が重なって。いいわよ。どうして蝶々は重なっているのかしら？
Takano continued to take notes as Satoko spoke. Curious about what she was writing, I looked, but... Is that German? I can't read it at all. Takano's so mean.
ずっと離れ離れで会えなかった蝶々がやっと一緒になれて喜んでるところごめんなさいですわね。
Ah, just like her and her brother.
私も何を言ってるのか自分でよくわかりませんわね。
You're saying that you miss your brother.
いえ、そういう答え方でいいのよ。思いついたことが抽象的ならそのまま口にしてくれればいいの。そういう検査なんだから。
本当にこんなへんてこな絵の感想を言うだけで検査になりますの？
なるわよ。例えば今のこの絵だけど、去年のさとこちゃんは別な答えを出してるの。それを比べるだけでもこの1年のあなたの変化を測ることができるわよ。
なんだか嫌なテストですわね。去年の私はこの絵になんで答えたのでございますの？
Satoru smiled and took a note without answering her question. I tried to remember what her answer was, but I have more than 100 years worth of memories in my head. Hanyu might remember better than I do. As I looked at Hanyu, I realized that she was standing there with a sad expression. I decided not to ask her. I could tell what kind of answer Satoko gave back then just by looking at Hanyu's face. Last year, June 1982, that was when Satoko was being abused by her cruel aunt. Recalling that, I didn't even want to know what Satoko answered. But just a year later, the Satoko who was so worn down could no longer be seen. She became so strong. I know how difficult it was for her to stay tough and strong like this. Her growth over the past year is overwhelming to me.
ケンさん、終わりましたか？
Irie returned from his office.
ええ、終わりましたわ。
だいぶさとこちゃんも手際が良くなりましたわ。今日はだいぶ早く終わりましたのよ。
早く終わらせるように頑張ったんですもの。今日は用事がある日だからのんびりとはできませんのよ。
おや？
To do it so
何かある
quickly,
んですか？
and she was taking so long with that one question or whatever.
日曜日ではありませんでしたっけ？
Sunday.
今日はみんなでミーのおじさんのおもちゃ屋さんで部活があるのですよ。
Okay, so we're back in the Watanagashi timeline.
なるほど。さとこちゃんが妙に今日はおとなしく検査に従ってくださると思いました。予定が詰まっていたんですね。それは悪いことをしました。ではさとこちゃん、これはいつものです。
Irie put a big paper bag on the table. He opened it up and gave her instructions about the medications. Satoko had heard the same instructions over and over before, but Irie still continued to talk just the same.
状態がいいようですので、お注射はこれまでの日に2回に戻します。昼食前と就寝前の2回に必ず注射をしてください。注射針は必ず変えるように。同じ針を2度使ってはいけませんよ。それからこちらはどうしても体調が悪くなった時のみ食後に。
Can you imagine, like, the concept of using the same needle more than once? It's just something by Big Pharma to, like, get you to buy more needles? Because technically, realistically, you could like, stick the needle in, like, alcohol. Leave it in there for, like, 5 minutes. Or even less. And clean it that way, and then use it again. I'm pretty sure that would work just fine. Anyway.
はいはいはい、いつもと同じですわよ。分かっていましたよ。
Satoko couldn't wait to meet our friends for the club activity. It made me feel happy to see her as excited as this.
注射2本に戻りましたのですよ。よかったのです。
The number of shots she has to take each day represents how well she's doing, so it's a good thing that she has to take fewer
大
shots.
変よね。1日に2本も注射を打つのは。
Hanyu grew quiet after hearing my comment. Irie handed her the paper bag after he finished his instructions.
リカ、終わりましたよ。
ええ、お疲れ様。検査中からずっとそわそわしてたからね。いってらっしゃいな。
すみませんわね、上の空で。いつも検査をしてくださって感謝していますのよ。
ほら、もう時間がないんじゃないの？私の車で送ろうかしら。そうそう。また車に新しいぬいぐるみがあるのよ。今度は約束通り、さとこちゃんが名前をつけて。
あら、何のぬいぐるみでございますかしら。どんな名前にしようか迷いますわね。
Satoko would easily be kidnapped.
何の動物のぬいぐるみなんですの？
また猫なのよ。今度は虎島なの。 可愛いからきっと気に入ってくれるわよ。
Satoko and Takano are good friends. They're both fond of stuffed animals. Every time Takano gets a new one, she brags about it to Satoko. That's all they have in common, but having a friend like Takano is a special thing for Satoko. She's part of the Hojo family who tried to betray the village. People at the clinic are the only adults who will ever talk to Satoko.
じゃあお二人とも部活行ってらっしゃい。罰ゲームが未定でしたらぜひメイド服の着用を提案してくださいね。サイズから種類までいろいろと取り揃えておりますので。
See, maybe you would have more money for research if you weren't spending it on cosplay.
また来週お会いしましょう。
Anyway.
やなこったなのですよ。また来週なのです。さ、行きましょうですわ。今日は部活メンバーだけじゃありませんものね。腕が鳴りましたよ。
I bowed slightly and made to leave the examination room, but I soon realized something. Idia was looking at me with a sad expression on his face. Just with that look, I could tell what he wanted to say. Please take care of Satoko, if something happens to her. I nodded at him and stepped out into the hallway with Satoko.
やれやれ。検査は慣れても疲れますわね。検査、お嫌なのですか？めんどくさいから嫌ではありますけど、これも仕事ですもの。仕方ありませんわ。
Satoko is supporting Idia's research. She gets financial support by helping him out. Or at least that's what Satoko thinks she's doing. She gets tested on and gets a stuffed animal as a reward. Satoko was bursting with enthusiasm, so we headed to Okinomiya at full speed. We wound up waiting for Keiichi and the other club members for a long time. We got there early, but they were late. I think they were late the last time we did this too. The last two times? Did it mean that did it mean that this was something that was meant to happen? It's unpleasant that I can't even change the most minor of fates. I finally saw them coming towards us on their bikes.
皆様方、お待ちしてましたよ。
Satoko acted like she was upset, but I could tell she was pleased to see them just the same.
さとこが可愛いのですよ。そこが飽きないのよ。可愛すぎる。
Satoko's behavior soothes my feelings of frustration. That is why I love Satoko. If she was a small, fluffy animal, I would definitely keep her in a cage.
さとこちゃん、リカちゃん、おはよう。おはようございますなのです。
おはようリカちゃん。さとこ、警察が来る前にケリをつけるぞ。目標は10億強奪だ。
圭一さんの話がわかりませんわ。遅くなったかな。リカちゃんたちは今来たの？今日は早く終わったのでだいぶ待ってましたですよ。
Mion and Rena know that Satoko gets a checkup every Sunday at the clinic.
そりゃあ悪いことしたわ。こっちはケイちゃんがなかなか来なくてさ。
That Keiichi. So he's the reason they're always
圭
late.
一では仕方ありませんですよ。ニパー。
ちょい待て。俺が悪役になりゃ丸く収まるのかよ。
Choi mate. Choi mate. Is that a Kansai dialect? I think so. I think that's from Kansai.
もちろん圭一さんでなくては務まらない大役でしたよ。
実に嫌な大役だな。こんなので丸く収まると思ったら大間違いだぞ。
Keiichi and Satoko messed around with each other. Satoko acted like she was crying and Rena punched Keiichi, knocking him out cold. It was the same old situation they always got into. I can watch this sort of thing forever. It's like having a glass of cold milk after taking a hot bath.
やっぱりこれが正しい丸い収め方。
前歯が欠ける前に新しいオチを探した方がいいと思うけどね。
We all laughed at him and finished greeting each other.
今日もみんなとっても元気なのです。
I'm going a little bit faster for this, by the way, mainly because we've kind of seen this. But I know it's still trying to just establish this timeline, I guess.
元気に勝る宝はないわね。そんなこと言ってるとリカはどんどん老け込んじゃいますのです。うるさいな。誰のせいだと思ってんのよ。当分甘いものを食べるのやめるわよ。
Anya seemed to be getting more depressed than usual. I should stop teasing her so much.
嘘よ。冗談だからあんまりひっつかないで。ごめんなさいなのです。
Anya loves sweet treats. She especially loves cakes and ice cream. Since she can't eat anything, she has to depend on me when it comes to that. In other words, whatever I eat, Hanyu can taste too. Even if Hanyu craves something, it doesn't mean anything if I don't eat it. In other words, I have total control of what she eats. That's why it's fun to tease her with saying what I'll eat and what I won't. It's almost as fun as teasing Satoko.
リカちゃんは今日もご機嫌だね。お持ち帰り。
はいはい、お持ち帰ったら犯罪だからね。
ミオン、店のおじさんが呼んでるぜ。
リカ、聞きまして。今日の部活、賞金が出るんだそうですのよ。
I remember. Mion was going to be paying 50,000 yen out of her own pocket as a prize. I couldn't believe she could just afford that. Therefore, I have to assume that she has some kind of guarantee that she won't lose.
なんと5万円でしたよ。5万円。
Satoko stared at me. Oh no. She was expecting me to be surprised to hear that the prize was 50,000 yen. It's natural to be surprised after hearing that sum. But I didn't react because I already knew it. Perhaps I gave the impression that I've known for a long time.
ケイチさん、5万円なんてすごい賞金と思いませんですこと？
5万円？なんだよそれ。ケイチ王国の5年分の GNP に匹敵するぞ。
Satoko said the same thing to Keiichi. She probably assumed that I wasn't listening to her, so she decided to talk to Keiichi instead.
小さなミスよ。大丈夫。5万円もあれば、もうずっと使い切れないくらいのお醤油が買えますです。なんで5万円分もお醤油を買わないといけないんですの？お醤油を買ってきてと言ってもめんどくさがる人がいるからなのですよ。みぱーん。リカって結構根に持ちますのね。
5万円分の醤油って一体どのくらいだよ。すげえ量になりそうだな。
Keiichi joined the conversation, which finally brought us back to our normal pace. In order to pursue a greater happiness, I need to sacrifice a smaller one. In a perfect world, Erika Furude was supposed to be surprised to hear from her best friend that the price was 50,000 yen. But I already knew that. I knew it from my previous life, so all I could do was give her a boring reaction. I can't be surprised at the big prize of 50,000 yen. I can't give her the reaction that she expects from me. I am losing the ability to be surprised by life. And after the continual repetition of small incidents like this, there will be nothing left that I can find interesting. I'll have nothing to be surprised about. I'll never be impressed with anything. Eventually, I'll lose my emotions entirely. That's why I'm always trying to be careful. I make sure that I act like the Rika Furude who doesn't know anything. Even though I may not be impressed as a young girl, Rika Furude should be impressed with many things. Rika Furude is supposed to act excited when she encounters something for the first time. I try to, at least. But the more and more I try, the more I feel like Rika Furude is someone very distant.
リカ、ごめん。こういうことで感情を灰色にすると、世界をもっと楽しまなきゃ。
I don't mean my lifespan literally. I'm not referring to my physical lifespan, but my mental one. The more and more I repeat the same days, the more I lose, from wonder to passion, and eventually my life will be more like an overplayed videotape. If I'm tired of that tape, I have a choice to close my eyes and sleep. By the time I wake up, the video should be over. But in reality, my life is not a beat-up old videotape. If I close my eyes and sleep, that would be my death. When my mental lifespan is over, Rika Furude will turn into a doll who can't even move a finger by her own will. When that happens, my pursuit of happiness will be over. I don't want that to happen. It's been at least 100 years, if not more. I've been stuck in this living hell for so long. I don't want my life to end here.
ごめん。もう大丈夫。100年程度で愚痴ってたら、あんたに笑われちゃうものね。僕はもう運命に慣れていますのですから。よし、大丈夫。私はフルでリカ。私はフルでリカ。
If I don't stay focused on being Rika Furude, I'm afraid I might end up showing my true self inside of that shell. Rika Furude is supposed to be a cute and innocent girl, after all.
レナだったら5万円で何を買いますですか？ケンタくん人形とか売ってもらえないのかな？フライドチキン屋さんに5万円持ってったら売ってくれないかな？
Kenta-kun is the name of the colonel, if I recall, in Japan. Like the KFC colonel.
その5万円で鎖を切る工具と第8車を買った方が早いと思いますです。レナさんだったら素手で鎖を引きちぎりかねませんわね。
ははは違いない違いない。
ひどい。
Thus we rejoin the typical flow of conversation naturally. Once I enter that flow, it's not hard for me to continue as Rika Furude. Being Rika Furude is like flying a kite for me. Once it's up in the air, it can stay in the sky for a while. But if something happens and it loses control, it's one heck of a challenge to get it back on track. Every time it tries to get back up in the air, the kite gets dragged on the ground and wears out. I'm exactly like that. Finally, Mion started clapping her hands to get everyone's attention. I already knew the rules. Members will be broken up into 5 different groups, and each group plays a game that they chose together. I was secretly hoping that Mion would change the rules for some reason. There's nothing more boring than to already know what's going to happen.
ミオンの部活って割と気まぐれなことが多いもの。ひょっとするとルールは違うこともあるかも。普段ならそういうこともあると思いますですが、今日はきっと何日も前から計画していたことだと思うのです。強い意志は運命になりやすい。だったわね。
Normally when we're doing club activities, Mion decides what to play at the last minute. She opens her locker and randomly decides what game to play. For that reason, our club activities are rarely repeated throughout my lives. That's why I'm never bored with them. But just as Hanyu said, today's events was something that Mion had been planning for a while. I was certain she wouldn't suggest something that spontaneous today. In that case, this won't be up to random chance. Mion had only one idea in her mind, therefore it was equivalent to destiny. Although her idea of having this event in the toy store is actually a spontaneous one. In all the lives I've repeated, there's a very low chance for this event to occur.
だから、あまりそういうのは期待しない方がいいのです。期待してるわけじゃないわ。
Of course, I was lying just now. I was hoping that Mion would suggest a new rule for this game. If it was the same rules again, I'd be suffering for a few minutes while I listened to her instructions. Nothing is more frustrating than walking the same path over and over again. Please, Mion. Please change my fate.
まずはくじ引きで5つの卓に分かれるよ。
Oh, she said please again.
そして各卓から1人の勝者を出して。
It was the same rules after all.
ちょっと期待した。変な期待はかえって理科を傷つけますですよ。そうね。何度も教えられてるのに私も学ばないわね。
Hanyu has taught me so many times. She taught me the trick to swimming in the flow of destiny. The flow of destiny is just like a river's. By going with the flow, I can swim the direction I want to some extent, but of course, trying to swim against the flow requires great effort. Allowing myself to drift causes the least amount of strain. Of course, some strong currents are impossible to resist, even with great effort. If I recklessly try to resist without realizing it's impossible, then I'll only wear myself out needlessly, just as if fighting a river's current. So Hanyu taught me to read those currents, which is why I should have easily imagined that the rules would be the same the moment I learned Mion had planned today's event in advance. Yet I still wished the rules would be different, a completely wasteful action. In the end, my hopes were betrayed, only leaving my heart worn out. And things like that cause me to separate further from Rika Furude. Eventually, I'll grow tired of everything, lose all interest, and die.
抗えない運命は受け入れる。リカなら運命の流れを読むことができますですよ。そうよね。ただでさえ短い残りの寿命、大事にしないとね。
I sighed and pretended as though I was listening to what Mion was explaining.
どうしたんだ、リカちゃん。退屈なのか？
Keiichi surprised me all of a sudden.
退屈って僕がですか？
This had never happened before, so I thought he was talking to someone else. But it seemed like Keiichi really was talking to me.
うん。なんか今朝は会ってからずっと退屈そうな顔をしてるからさ。
Oh?
ひょっとして早起きしすぎて寝不足なのか？
前に同じ部活をやったことがあるので、またなのかと思っただけなのです。
No one would understand what I mean anyway, but Keiichi might. And so I told him how I honestly felt.
なんだ、そうなのか？なんだ、ミオンめ。道理で手慣れてると思ったぜ。
Right, Keiichi, remember, he's new. So for all we know, he probably interpreted this as like, oh, she's done this before. In the past.
ま、俺は初めての参加だから十分楽しみだけどな。
I envied him for feeling that way. I sighed knowing that I never will.
確かに、すでに知ってる説明を延々と繰り返されると苦痛な時ってあるよな。俺も昔、塾で学校のだいぶ先まで習っててさ、遅れて習う学校が苦痛だったことがあるよ。
Keiichi didn't understand me, but I'm glad that at least he understood how frustrating it was to repeat the same situation.
そうなのです。僕も学校は特に苦痛なのですよ。
え？本当かよ。いつも楽しそうにしてるじゃないかよ。
Rika Furude is supposed to be happy at school. That's why I act that way.
すでに知っていることを延々と聞き続けなければならないのは、拷問以外の何者でもないと思いますのです。
It's easier for me to change what Satoko cooks for dinner. I can simply volunteer to cook instead of her. But I can't change what teacher teaches at school every day. I have no choice but to be quiet and listen to her lecture. Dude, imagine you had to repeat the same fucking lectures every single fucking day. And in Japan, during this era where kids have school up until Saturday? Holy fuck.
まあ授業はどうしようもないよな。俺はそこを塾で習ってますから、その次をやってくださいなんて名前。でもこいつは違うぜ。遊びじゃないか。
遊びではありますが、決まってるのですよ。
わかんねえぜ。だって5択に分かれるのはくじ引きだそうじゃないか。しかもそれぞれの択で何のゲームをやるかは任意に決めることになってる。今日どんなゲームで戦わされてどんな展開で盛り上がるかなんか全然想像がつかねえぜ。
予想はつきますですよ。
そんなことねえよ。
Keiichi smiled as he contradicted me. That smile seemed so ignorant to
く
me.
じ引きで5択に分かれますですが、部活メンバーはきれいに5択に分かれますです。圭一はあそこ、僕はそこの択なのです。そして僕は魚釣りのゲームをすることになります。圭一はすごろくの100億長者ゲームなのです。
I don't know how, but the last time we were broken into 5 separate groups, it couldn't have been a coincidence. I'm sure Mion did something to ensure that it would end like that. I'm 100% sure. As for the games we play, I'm not totally sure, but if each member in the group follows the same thinking patterns, they'll probably end up making the same choices. If you roll dice many times, you begin to approach the average. One person's spontaneous act can be random, multiple people's thoughts can be averaged out for the most part. The more people that are involved, the more difficult it is to alter the path of fate. That's why I'm pretty sure that we'll end up playing the same games. Keiichi seemed surprised to hear my prediction.
なんだよそれ。予言か？よくそこまで言い切れるじゃねえか。
運命とはそういうものなのです。
へへ、運命なんて言われるとよ。意地でも抗ってみたくなるのが男ってもんだよな。
He smiled at me again. I knew that he was just smiling without reason, but I felt a small hope from him. After all, Keiichi really did shatter fate before, but that was just a miracle that happened in my previous life. I couldn't expect him to do the same thing in this one. Otherwise, I would be worn down by my high expectations again.
はい、くじ引きはこの箱の中から1枚引いて決めよう。まず部活メンバーからね。
Mio and Drew first, then Satoko followed. The results were the same as last time.
初戦で部活メンバーとは当たりたくねえな。もしリカちゃんと当たったらごめんよ。
当たりませんですよ。圭一の卓はあそこ。僕の卓はそこなのです。
ちぇ、そううまくいってたまるかよ。うれ。
Keiichi looked upset.
僕の予言は外れないのです。
5択の一つってことは 20% だもんな。適当に言ったってそれだけの確率で当たるってことさ。
Keiichi told me that it was just a coincidence.
なら、僕のくじも予想通りだったなら、何%の確率になりますですか
？20% の 20% だから4% だな。さすがにこの確率だったら信じてもいいぜ。
It'll be right here. Keiichi grinned at me, believing such a chance was impossible.
さあ、最後はリカちゃんだよ。
Mion handed me the box of slips. No matter what I did, I'd be getting that table. There was a reason behind it. Mion was doing something to make sure that we'd all get a different table. I thought about why Mion would do that. With the information I've gathered about Mion over the years, I could see her reasoning.
多分、ミオンは部活のメンバーの誰かが1回戦で負けてしまったら気の毒だと思っているのでしょう。そうね。同じ卓に部活メンバーがぶつかり合ったら、どちらかのメンバーは必ず敗退することになる。
If everyone was in a different group, we'd all have a chance to move on to the second stage. That's why she was controlling this draw. I put my hand inside the box. I could feel several folded pieces of paper inside it. But if you thought for a moment, it was odd. No matter which one I chose, I'd never get any other table.
どういう仕掛けでリカを最後の卓へ送るようにしているのですか？さあ、それはミオンに聞かないとわからないわね。でも一つ言えるのは、多分この箱の中のどれを引いてもあの卓になると書いてあるはず。
Ah, I got it.
その箱の中には今同じくじしか入っていない？そういうことになるわね。多分ミオンの持つこの箱は何か細工がしてあるんでしょうね。
It was probably a box for a magic show or something. There could be some kind of gimmick inside the box, then she can switch what's inside of it. Depending on who's drawing the paper, she'd change the lots and control the results. I didn't know exactly how, but I was sure she was doing something. I didn't even need to know how she was doing it. The most important thing was why.
どれにしようか迷いますです。
さあさあ、どれを選んでも運命は一緒だよ。
She was admitting it herself. I was certain then. Based on what I felt inside, there was less than 10 pieces of paper inside this box. In other words, there were hidden pieces of paper that I couldn't touch somewhere inside the box. Yeah, I was thinking of Kaiji when she brought up the box scenario and stuff. I smiled at Mion as I figured out her trick, but she had no clue why I was smiling.
これなのです。
はいよ、どれどれ？
え？
おお！すごいね！部活メンバーが全員きれいに分かれたよ。
Mion behaved as though this was news to her. She's such an actress. The other contestants made a dissatisfied noise. They'd have to face a club member no matter which table they got. Keiichi was surprised too, and not only because we were divided.
運命は決まっていることなのです。
I smiled at him in return. Keiichi was in denial for a moment, but then he smiled back at me.
25分の1の確率で当てるとはやるじゃねえか。
It was not. I predicted that Mion and Satoko would be in a different table, so the possibility was even lower than that. Keiichi understood that, but normal people like him can't understand the meaning of fate. That's why he put it off as a coincidence. But Keiichi, what if my prediction is right about what game you'll be playing? That possibility will be 1 in billions. There are a lot of games in this store. What if that prediction is right too? Will he still believe it's just a coincidence? I stayed quiet in my seat and waited to see what game my group was going to decide on. They were going to choose the fishing game. I can't expect him to choose anything other than that.
期待して裏切られたらまた辛くなるものね。
One of the boys stood up. He walked toward the shelf full of games and picked up one box. He lifted the box above his head and turned around so he could show it to us. I closed my eyes as he did so, but I could still hear what he was saying.
見ろよ、これこれ。懐かしいよな。これにしねえか。
They have no art style. Or no
知っ
sprite.
てるよ、それ。魚がくるくる回って口をパクパクさせるのを釣るやつだろ。
I could taste the bitter chemicals from my brain in my mouth. I clenched my lips and tried to endure this numbing feeling.
ごめん。今日は体調が悪いのかしらね。なぜかうまく受け流せないわ。
It wasn't because I was it wasn't because I wasn't feeling well, of course. It was because of my emotions. Our powers are getting weaker and we can only rewind about 2 weeks of our lives. I was feeling that that the end was near for us. In order for me to change my tragic fate, I need more time to prepare. But I can only go back 2 weeks. That means my power to resist fate has significantly weakened. Even if I become as weak as a small leaf in the river, I should be able to do something in order to change my path. But I can only go back to the point where I'm getting ready to be swallowed into the whirlpool. There's no chance for me to escape it. I lived for so long, believing that I could eventually escape my fate and survive. I believed that I had a chance in every moment of my life, of every life I lived. But there are limits to those chances. There are so many limits in my repeated lives, and perhaps this might be my last chance. That may be why I'm feeling so
ダ
restless.
メです、リカ。難しく考えれば考えるほど心に良くないのです。わかってるわよ。ちょっと黙ってて。
My brain was numb, as if surrounded by a gray mist. I was inside a crowded toy store, but felt very far away from everyone else. The tighter I closed my eyes and the harder I clenched my teeth, the emptier my head became. No, no, no.
リカ、しっかり。
As I tried to focus, I became conscious again. Hanyu looked at me with concern. I tend to lose my mind easily right after coming back from death. I usually have more time to relax and get used to a new life, but I have no time for that now. The Watanagashi festival is only 2 weeks away. I can't just relax and wait for myself to get used to things. Don't be a wimp, Rika. Don't be a wimp. Fight against fate. But even if I do, that fate always betrays me and I grieve. What if I did the opposite? What if I didn't fight against fate? A few weeks after the Watanagashi festival of 1983, I will die because I'm fated to do so. Fight. Don't fight. 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 As I repeated the same words, they started to lose all meaning. I felt like I was chanting something. I bit my tongue in my mind and forced myself to stop thinking about it. I was calming down a little bit. When I opened my eyes, I saw the fishing game right in front of me, as well as my pole. Someone placed it there while I had my eyes closed. It was as if I was seeing the immovable reality of fate right in front of me. It felt like the final verdict to me. What do you think, Keiichi? This is what fate is all about. Do I want to earn this agreement or his agreement or his sympathy? I stood up and walked towards Keiichi's table. His group couldn't decide on the game, so the store owner was deciding for them. Just like the last time, the store owner will pick the game of life.
やっぱり相手の提案するゲームじゃ不利だもんな。なんて言って互いの提案を蹴り合うもんだからちっとも決まりゃしねえんだ。
Right, remember that essentially if you lose, you have to buy the game that you're playing.
リカちゃんの方は決まったのか？
見ればわかりますですよ。
He looked at my table and saw the fishing game there. Keiichi was surprised to see that my prediction was right again. He also remembered that I predicted his game too.
じゃあマスターはリカちゃんの予言した100億長者ゲームを持ってくるっていうのかよ。
僕は時々予言もできますのですよ。リパ
本当かよおい。よしよし。じゃあマスターが本当に100億長者ゲームを持ってきたなら信じてやるぜ。
そうです。ケイイチたちは100億長者ゲームで戦うことになりますです。
よしよし。そこまで言うなら勝負しようじゃねえか。
It's not gonna be the game of life. This is Ryukishi fucking with us again.
あ、マスターを買収してあるなんてのはなしだぞ。
マスターが売れ残りのゲームを持ってこようと強く思っているなら必然の結果になりますのです。
I remembered it was covered by dust when he gave it to them last time. Since we had to buy the game if we lost, he was trying to sell products he had a surplus of. Therefore, he won't be choosing any game at random. He'll be looking for one with bad sales, with a strong will to do so. That will of his is going to make the pull of fate all the stronger. In that sense, there's no guarantee that he'd be choosing the game of life specifically. He might choose something else that's also overstocked. The owner finally appeared with a box covered in dust.
ね、言った通りなのですよ。
He has the game of life box in his hands. The part of me that hoped it wouldn't be the game of life tasted bitterness at the betrayal, but the cynical part of me that expected it to happen found it amusing in a way. I felt like my personality was twisting more and more.
マスター、どうしてそのゲームを選んだんです？
ん？いやいや、本当に気まぐれだよ。倉庫の在庫から適当に探し出したのさ。決して売れ残りの一番傷んだやつを持ってきたわけじゃないんだよ。
When he heard that the owner chose the game randomly, Keiichi shrugged his shoulders in confusion. That must be his way of surrendering.
なあリカちゃん、これってマジの予言なのか？
リパ
いやさ、村のお年寄りにリカちゃんはお社様の生まれ変わりで神通力があるって力説されたことがあるんだよ。未来の予言とかができてものすごい的中率だとかなんとか。それって本当なのか？
I was surprised that Keiichi actually believed the superstitious stories he heard from the elderly
決
villagers.
まっている運命を読むだけなのです。もっと言えば前に一度見てきた世界なのですから。
チェックソここまで当てられちゃそんなバカなとも言えやしない。
Keiichi seemed like he was just fooling around. He probably only thinks I'm goofing around and acting haughty because my random predictions all came true. I had hope for him. I thought the owner might bring a different game because Keiichi once had the power to change fate. But that didn't happen. I'm not surprised, but I felt betrayed again. Huh. It
賭
hurts.
けは僕の勝ちなのですよ。
I speak to Keiichi sarcastically. I wanted him to understand that no one can change the path of fate. However, Keiichi did nothing but smile.
調子に乗るなよリカちゃん。運命を読めるなんていい加減なことを言っちゃいけないぜ。男にとって宿命と運命という言葉はもっともっと尊くて熱い意味がこもってるんだ。そんなやすやすと読めるようなもんじゃねえ。
I had no idea what he was trying to say, but he made me nervous. It wasn't a scary feeling. No, it was closer to hope.
さっきリカちゃんはマスターが100億長者ゲームを持ってくることを運命だと言った。偶然であったとしても的中したのだからリカちゃんが正しいと言わざるを得ないさ。でもな、こうも言ったよな。
何ですか？
俺が100億長者ゲームで戦うことも運命だってな。
Yes, it was indeed his fate. Fate can change sometimes, with uncertainty and time, but the possibility that it would change in this situation was very slight. I doubted that anything would turn out differently.
なら、その運命とやらを俺がぶち壊してやろうじゃないか。
Keiichi stood up in a hurry. Then he started talking to Tomita and Okamura, his group members.
すまん、俺100億長者ゲームは持ってるんだよ。だからルールの裏の裏まで知り尽くしてる。
ですか？
ああ。だからこのセレクトはフェアじゃないよな。マスター、申し訳ないんですけど、100億長者ゲームの隣に置いてあった他のゲームに変えてもらえませんか？
I knew it.
そうかい？わかったよ。じゃあ他のを持ってこよう。
The owner picked up the Game of Life again and took it back into storage. He comes back with the Game of Life too. As I remained there in shock, he returned with a game called Pop-Up Pirate.
これならどうかな？
ああ、あの樽にナイフを刺すゲームですよね。
どうだよ二人とも。これならフェアだろ？
そうですね。ルールもわかりやすいし、それにしましょ
う。じゃあ決まり。俺たちの卓はこれで勝負だ。
Ichi winked at me as I stood there with my mouth open. Can you just imagine, like, Rika standing there and her mouth just agape? Just her dumbfounded. It looked like he had just forcefully changed my prediction. But for me, it's not that simple. It was supposed to be fate. That's why the owner brought the Game of Life to their table. They were supposed to play that game. That's what happened last time. That's what was supposed to happen. But he just changed that fate in front of my eyes like it was nothing. It's as if someone asked me to stand an egg on its end. And as I struggled to do so, Keiichi forcefully cracked the egg and made it stand up in front of me. I should have had far greater power than Keiichi, but why was I feeling so weak? Was it because I wasn't trying to fight against fate so I wouldn't get hurt? Was it because I wasn't trying to fight against fate so I wouldn't get hurt? Because I was going with the flow without trying too hard. What was I thinking?
リカちゃんさ、さっきすっげえつまらなさそうな顔してたよな。それってあれだろ？魚釣りゲームじゃ嫌だなって不安が的中しちゃって。
そうね。今さら隠さない。
じゃあ簡単じゃないか。
So I'm a witch who's been living for more than 100 years. So I thought I was better than everyone just because I can see the paths of fate. That's stupid. I'm really so stupid. Keiichi tapped me on the back. He was urging me to return to my table. The sensation of his touch filled up my heart with emotion. This is what I was thinking about a bit ago. Like, Urika has mentioned that she has tried to, like, she tried, I think, like, on their second or third attempt, it was something along those lines, that she tried to explain things to someone. Or she mentioned that she had tried to explain this before, like, what's going to happen and all that, to people, and it just didn't work out. Maybe that was the scene with Akaska. Maybe that's what she was referring to. But how to word it? I'm not sure if she ever tried to do this. Like, instead of, like, you know, oh, they're gonna pick the fish game. How about we play something else? You know, anything along those lines. Like just try to change fate herself a little bit, and maybe things will be different. Who knows? But anyway, she needs to somehow change the X, Y, and Z factors. I wasn't gonna stand idly by anymore. I thought I couldn't cheat fate. I thought 2 weeks wasn't enough, but Keiichi just defied his fate in a matter of 5 minutes.
僕は魚釣りゲームはお魚さんがかわいそうだと思いますので、他のゲームにしたいのですよ。
The other people at my table looked at me with confused expressions. Their reactions were scaring me. Right at that moment, I could really feel I was facing the impenetrable wall of fate. Even so, I had nothing to be scared of.
そっか。じゃあ、リカちゃんは何がいい？リカちゃんの提案する他のゲームでいいよ。
They accepted my suggestion and gave up on the fishing game so easily. I want to play Mahjong. That's right, I used to be much more aggressive before, but I became so tired and bitter and mean. I gave in to fate. But I'm not going to yield anymore. Keiichi taught me that. He didn't have any memories from his previous life, but Keiichi was still Keiichi. He'd never give in to fate.
久しぶりに運命と戦おうという気力が充実するのを感じるわ。やる気があれば、ものの5分でだって運命は変えられる。それが2週間もあるんだもの。今回はこれまでとは違う。もっともっと運命と戦ってみせる。頑張りましょうなのです。
In contrast to my motivation, Hanyu was wearing a sad expression. Okay, so it looks like they're skipping the games. Uh-oh. Keiichi loses?
そっか。おじさんの店の手伝いってんじゃ仕方ねえな。
ささやかなお店だけどね。でもさ、特売やれば主婦が殺到するの常識で読めないのかね。店員足りないのに卵1パックを一人様1点限り10円なんてやるな。
As we were getting ready to move on to the next stage, Mion got a call from work. This was fated to happen too. If I was still feeling depressed, I would have been disgusted with the situation, but after learning what it felt like to change fate, I was in a good mood. Keiji and Mion seemed like they kept regretting that they were unable to settle the match. They really are such good friends.
本当にあの二人は仲がいいね。仲良しさんすぎてレナは焼いちゃうよ。
What if right now Rika will try to, if Keiichi got the doll, he got the price. What if instead of giving it to Rena, he gives it to Mion? They end up getting closer, and Rena fucking snaps anyway because she's jealous.
クラスにはケイイチさんと近い年の男子がいませんものね。ケイイチさんにはちょうどいい男友達の感覚なんじゃありませんの？それでもみーちゃんは女の子なんだよ。男の子にはなれないよ。それは分かってますけど、こうしていると仲のいい男子同士にしか見えませんわね。
Rena and Satoko enjoyed the lingering excitement for the days as they watched Mion and Keiichi happily goof off. The next moment, the owner came out from the store.
みんな、今日は本当にありがとう。おかげでイベントは大盛り上がりだったよ。
He was holding 4 paper bags in his hands. I remember, he gave us gifts as a reward for today. I think there were dolls inside.
大したものじゃないけど、これ今日のおだちんに。
あ、吉郎おじさん、私にはないの？おだちん。
He was giving them only to us. Mion didn't get anything because she's a family member. That's what happened last time too.
可愛いのが出てきましたわよ。
Satoko let out a cheer of joy as she saw a cute doll inside her bag. Rena reacted the same way.
これかわいい。お持ち帰りしていいの？本当に？
持ち帰り？
ってことは俺のもかな。なんだかやたら可愛いのが出てきたぞ。
Keiichi got a gorgeous, expensive-looking doll. It was by far the best one. It was adorable even to my eyes. Satoko, Rena, and Mion were feeling the same way.
ケイちゃんには一番似合わないのが出てきちゃったね。
Come on, Rika, just fucking move your eyes and be like, give it to her. Mion started making fun of him right away. She was only saying that because she was jealous that Keiichi got a doll that she really wanted.
なんつうのか、プリティっていうか、キュートっていうか、可愛いのは認めるんだが、着せ替え人形はちょっとな。
ケイちゃんが持ってたら確実に明日から変態扱いだね。うん。
Mion just can't be honest with herself. It was obvious that she was just trying to make him give up the doll so she could have it herself. She should have just admitted that and asked Keiichi for it. But that's the cute side of Mion. I bet Keiichi can never understand that. Keiichi can't keep the doll after receiving that much bullying from Mion. He was thinking about who he should give it to. He probably didn't want to give it to Mion. Time froze for a moment. Hanyu whispered something in my ear.
覚えていますですか？
Because Keiichi doesn't give Mion the doll, everything goes to shit. Huh? The fuck is this? Hold on. Give me 1 sec. I think this might be normal. And it could be like my quote-unquote attempt to change fate or something. I guess we could try to save. I don't know. Not like it's gonna change much, but you know. I really doubt it. But, Let me just make sure of something else real quick. Okay. I was kind of looking it up just very vaguely, just to make sure. And it seems like at least this chapter does have some questions. Or some choices that I can make. I guess we'll still try to advise him. And we'll see. I'm sure everyone who's played this, I'm sure Ryukishi is like, everyone's gonna choose this. No matter what. Maybe on their second playthrough they'll do this. I did nothing and watched the events unfold. But let's see what happens. If we advise him on who he should give the doll to. I remembered that Keiichi's insensitive decision eventually caused a fatal ending. That was fate. Keiichi was internally thinking that he should give the doll to Mion, because my guess is, say we do give Mion the doll, this ends like Factor X in Mion in this chapter. But what if maybe Irena is affected by Factor X in this chapter because he gave the doll to Mion? She was the only one who didn't get anything, so it would be natural for him to give it to her. But the hesitation he was feeling was because Mion was such a close friend to him. He'd be treating Mion as if she was a male friend. But it would be weird to give a doll to another boy. He was afraid that if he gave the doll to Mion, he would start looking at her as a girl from that point onward. He wanted to continue his friendship with Mion without thinking about her, about their difference in gender. He didn't want to ruin the relationship they had at the moment. That's why he couldn't give the doll to Mion. Even though she was the only one without a doll, he felt so hesitant. Of course, that was only how he felt. Mion didn't agree. In actuality, she wished he would treat her more like a girl. I walked closer to Keiichi so I could talk to him. If Mion heard me telling Keiichi to give her the doll, she would resist taking it. I had to make sure that no one but Keiichi could hear me. I also had to make this very quick. I poked Keiichi in the back.
Huh?
Keiichi, the person who really wants the doll is the one who's bullying you the most about it. I was going to say that, but Keiichi opened his mouth first even before I could say anything to him. I hadn't said anything to him yet, but Keiichi told me that he knew. I felt confused not knowing what he just meant. He turned around to face Mion, smiling mischievously.
Mion, 俺が持ってたら変態扱いなら、こりゃ誰が持ってりゃ変態扱いにならないんだ？ん？
そんなことは知らないよ。まあお人形なんて男の子の持つものじゃないよねって言っただけだしさ。
ほう。じゃあお前が持てば万事解決じゃないか。ほれ。
Keiichi tossed the doll to Mion as if passing her a basketball. Aww. Her face is so cute. It's a very cute little CG. Look at Mion. And that doll is so smug. It reminds me of that, I can't remember her name. Never mind. As if forcing her to carry his bag or something. Mion's face quickly turned red. Feeling shy, Keiichi turned away from her. That was surprising. He got my message just by getting a tap on his back. Was Keiichi always that smart? Just one tap was all it took. I don't think he would have done the same in the previous life. This was just a small incident, but this world is definitely different to the previous one. Or could it be... Perhaps he would have given that doll to Mion even if I didn't poke him in the back.
以前の世界の記憶を受け継いでいる。まさかそんなことあるわけがないのです。
I know for a fact that he doesn't have those memories, but there might be something imperceptible somewhere inside his heart. He might remember some of the regrets he felt in the previous worlds. That's why he strongly felt he should give the doll to Mion this time. After repeating so many lives, I'm the only one who can even notice this slight growth of his. But I see it. It's clearly visible to me. Mion, having turned red, insisted that the cute doll would be a much better fit for Rena. Her attitude made it clear that she really wanted the doll but couldn't be honest about it.
だからさ、おじさん、こういう可愛いお人形はさ、ちゃんとした可愛い女の子に渡した方が似合うと思うんだよね。私みたいな男女に渡してもほら、人形の方がかわいそうっていうか、
She's so shy about it. Look at her. She's blushing like crazy. It's adorable. Normally that's the like Sonozeki, like head of the household expression, kind of. But here when she's blushing, it's very cute.
欲しいくせに顔に書いてあるじゃねえかよ。
Oh.
違う、書いてなんかないよ。嘘つき、意地悪。
Mion shook her head with an embarrassed look, pretending she wasn't interested in the doll. Everyone here knew that she wanted it. We all looked at Mion with big smiles on our faces.
おいおい、別に女の子じゃないと人形は渡せないとか、そういう考え方じゃねえぞ。こいつは俺と今日の部活で熱い睨み合いをしてくれた親友への贈り物なんだぜ。
Oh no. Keiji said as a friend. He fucked up the time streams.
そうなの？ケイちゃんは男の子の友達にも人形を渡すわけ？
まあ確かに選べる範囲があるならわざわざ人形は選ばねえな。でもよ、男の世界じゃ相手に悪意がない限り贈り物は拒まねえぜ。相手の気持ちなんだからよ。変に断られるとかえって男気がないよな。
じゃあその女の子でなくても人形を受け取ってもいいんだ。
She's being very cute. Everyone thought Mion's reaction was hilarious. Erena couldn't stop chuckling. Satoko and I burst out laughing too. Mion, having realized she was being laughed at, got even more embarrassed.
男が仲間に送ったもんだぜ。大事にしなかったら承知しないぞ。
うん。
Aww.
おじさんがこの人形が欲しいからもらうんじゃないよ。ケイちゃんが仲間に送るって言ったからケイちゃんの顔を立てるために受け取るんだからね。
How cute. Hanyu was cracking up too. She was laughing in a loud voice, knowing that no one could hear her anyway. But was this really a good way to resolve the problem? I thought that Mion's issue in the previous life was that she wanted Keiichi to treat her like a girl. She got the doll, but Keiichi still wasn't treating her that way. Still, Mion looked very happy. Maybe it wasn't a big deal after all. I'm sure that Mion will take that doll with her to bed tonight. She'll kiss it goodnight too. I could bet on that. It was written all over her face.
ようやく受け取ってくれたぜ。人形1個渡すのに手間のかかるやつだぜ。
Keiichi turns around to face us, smiling bitterly.
僕もそう思いますです。あの意地っ張りのミオンによくお人形を渡せましたです。ミオンさんも笑っちゃいますわね。欲しいってあんなに顔に書いてあるのに痩せ我慢なんかしちゃって。
違いねえな。
こらおじさんの陰口を言ってるでしょ。こら
みーちゃん、バイト急がなくていいの？遅刻しちゃうよ。
もう覚えてなよ。
Mion seemed like she wanted to stay longer, but after looking at her watch, she started heading to work. Everyone was wearing smiles on their faces. Today was such a fun day. Everyone had lots of fun and no one was hurt. I've repeated the same day so many times before, but this time something was different. It's like I rolled a die and got a 6, and then I rolled it again and got a 6 again. I don't know if this was just a lucky coincidence or if it was meant to be. It's as if the god of fate is celebrating my motivation to fight against him. Oh, and this should be the chapter end. What an interesting take on this chapter so far. It's pretty good. Good times with Oyashiro-sama. Huh? Eh? Nani? What do you mean good times with Oyashiro-sama? What do you mean? What do you mean, good times with Oyashiro-sama? Excuse me? Okay. Well, let's read it real quick. I was watching TV with Satoko and Hanyu after eating dinner. It was a variety show, and the performers were making the audience laugh. We were laughing too. Well, the three of us were enjoying ourselves. In reality, there was only Satoko and me in the room. I'm the only one who can see Hanyu. Satoko can't see her at all. Hanyu responds every time Satoko says anything. Satoko can't hear her, but Hanyu still responds to her when she's in a good mood. It's like she's answering a question asked on TV. You could even compare it to playing house. She started playing this game with other people because she can't communicate with anyone else but me. Hanyu always attends her club meetings and has a good time there too. If she could communicate with my other friends, she would have been a good match for us. But I don't want to hurt her feelings by thinking about that. If the story of the miracle written in the old scriptures is true, if it's really Hanyu who performed it, she's someone who had tremendous power long ago. Excuse me? Excuse me? What ancient scriptures? But now she doesn't have any spiritual power, and I'm the only one who can even see her. Hanyu has never told me how she lost her power. I just have to assume that her spiritual power diminished over time. There's a legend in the Furuta family that says Oyashiro-sama will be reborn if a girl is born into the family 7 generations in a row. With my birth, Hanyu was finally able to communicate with a human being for the first time in centuries. Does that mean that Oyashiro-sama has returned? The villagers' image of Oyashiro-sama doesn't quite match up with that of Hanyu. Especially when I see her lying on her belly watching TV with Satoko. Right, so Hanyu was Oyashiro-sama. So Oyashiro-sama is real, and she's a tulpa of Erika's invention. Or, well, a girl that was finally someone that was able to communicate with Rika. I fucking knew it. But anyway, that was a good introduction to this chapter. So I think we're gonna go ahead and call it here for today. Let's get ready to swap on over to the ending screen.